Just bucket after bucket over my face while I got a foot on my chest. And I remember not being able to breathe.
Holding onto an electric fence.
And then he would bite you by the ear to make you stand back up because, you get kneed in the leg,
She said she wanted to die, so he forced her to run into the brick wall outside.
Dude get kicked in the face while he was doing push-ups. Wired his jaw shut.
The stomach, the chest, the back of the head, whatever.
Violence, more violence. If you reach out to the authorities to get some sort of safety, more violence will come.
Trying to get
So I was adopted, and my adoptive mother abused me and my 3 adoptive siblings. And she started kicking my brothers out when they were 9 and 10 years old and was reporting them as runaways, and then started sending them off to the troubled teen industry at a very young age. So my brothers were in and out of different juvenile detention centers, different troubled teen industry programs. My brother went to Dozer School for Boys. And then my sister at 15 started getting into trouble, getting in the streets. And they sent her away to an independent fundamental Baptist boarding school in Milton, Florida, called Charity Haven. I was 11 years old when I got sent away to my first program. I was living with my aunt after my adoptive mother got really sick. And I had been living previously with a family friend, and I had been molested. And when I got home, I was wetting the bed. And instead of getting me therapy or treatment, I got abused over it. And my mother would rub my face in the urine soaked sheets and make me sleep in it. And so I went to school smelling like urine. And so the school counselors and stuff were asking questions. And next thing I knew, I was living with my Aunt Sherrod. And that didn't go very well because she was independent fundamental Baptist. And I was raised that way, but we were like the more liberal side. We could wear pants, wear regular, clothes and listen to regular music. But when I lived with my aunt, it wasn't that way. And I would go home on the weekends, and it was 2 different sets of rules. And I wasn't doing well in school. I was ADHD, dyslexic, and they did not want to address that. And I would get punished for not finishing all of my schoolwork because we were doing ACE School Tomorrow curriculum. And I was in the 6th grade at this time, and I couldn't complete my 5 pages in each pace on time. And so when school was over, she would come to school with a wooden paddle. And if I didn't have all my paces done, she would give me, licks and spankings. And she sat me down one day after school and told me that I was going to go to a boarding school. Now, mind you, I'm 11. So I'm thinking oh my God, Hogwarts, no. And she tells me that I'm going to be at this school with my sister Beverly, and I hadn't seen her in a year. So I was super excited to go to this boarding school, and I thought it was going to be a lot better. And when I got there, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, obviously. My sister was nowhere to be found. They had moved her to their sister facility in Texas.
And what was the facility they sent you to?
They sent me to Charity Haven Girls Home in Milton, Florida. And that was ran by Norma and Dave Walkden, and they previously had worked underneath Lester Roloff at the Rebecca home. And they opened up their own program. So the wife ran the one in Milton, Florida, and the husband ran the one in Alice, Texas, called Victory Acres. And that's where they moved my sister to. I wasn't allowed to talk to my sister, look at her or anything, because sometimes we would go to different churches in different states, and we would sing and give our testimonies. And sometimes we'd go to revivals, and then both programs would meet up. And I remember seeing the bus stop at a rest stop and seeing my sister get off the bus, and I was just crying because I couldn't talk to her or look at her. And they let me talk to her for about 5 minutes because I was uncontrollably sobbing. And I think they probably felt sorry for me because I was 11. And I remember her hugging me and saying, just do what they say and you'll be okay. I love you. Just do what they say. When we got back from the revival in North Carolina, I just was kind of like hell on wheels. I was upset, mad, angry. I wouldn't get any kind of like letters or phone calls. No one was checking in on me. And it was really hard for me to just obey the rules, mainly because I was 11 and very talkative and ADHD. And name an 11-year-old that has ADHD that doesn't talk, nonstop all the time. So I was at Charity Haven for 3 months, and because they thought I was demon possessed, and because I would not listen to the rules and follow the rules, they decided to send me to a different program, and they thought that Bethel would do the trick. And so after being locked up for about 2.5 months in an isolation room, I was awoken by they called them helpers, and they're kind of like dorm leaders. And Norma walked in, they placed shackles on my feet and handcuffs, and I was allowed to have shoes. And they told me to get in the van, and I got in the van, and we drove all the way to Bluestone, Mississippi. I remember seeing a white church, and it said, there was a sign in front of a tree that said Bethel Baptist Church. And I was like, okay, what are we doing here? And then we go down this dirt road, and I see these boys barracks and these guys in like white t-shirts, and they're all bald, and they're in like camo pants marching. And I was like, Bethel Baptist Boys Academy. Well, they're not going to leave me here. It's a boys' school. They're going to try to scare me into submission. Okay, I see what's going on here. So I thought it was going to be like a Maury situation, have a drill instructor try to scare me, you know what I mean? And then like I'd go back. And no, they left my ass there. So we pull up right up to Herman Fountain's house, and immediately they had me get off the van. And as soon as my feet touched the ground, I had William Knott and Herman Fountain in my face. And I don't know these men. They're spitting, yelling. They're like, "You're a tough guy, or tough one, huh? You're a runner, huh?" Because I had shackles. And I tried to explain, like, I've never ran away in my life. I'm 11. I don't even know why they put these shackles on my feet. They wouldn't even let me explain. And they both got one on one side, one on the other, like was pushing me, yelling at me, and shoving me up to Herman Fountain steps. And I was instructed to do exercises. Calisthenics I had never done before. And I was instructed to do what's called a bends and thrust. And it's where you have to jump up and then go down and spread your legs apart, put them back together, and then go back up. They're screaming and yelling in my face, telling me to do exercises. I'm, being all exaggerating with them, which wore me out quicker. And then Knott had to go back to the boys' dorm, and I was instructed to go inside of Herman's house. And he must not like my facial expressions, because he told me that I needed to smile, which made me like really uncomfortable. Like, why do I'm exercising? Who smiles while exercising? And I was instructed to stare at the mirror in his house, which was like in front of his staircase. And I had to stare at that mirror and do jumping jacks. And I kind of just complied, because I was like, okay, if I smile and just do what he says, maybe he'll like let me stop. Eventually he let me stop, and his demeanor had kind of changed. It was like, oh, he was telling me about how he had a program, it got shut down, he reopened, and I was the first girl to arrive. And that was a good thing, because I had a chance to be a leader. And I remember seeing another boy upon entry having to do like these rolls in the mud. And when he stopped, they had like 3 or 4 boys like attack him. And I was like, I'm going to do what they say, because there was no other girls. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, if I don't listen, are they going to have these boys beat me up? So in the beginning, I was terrified at Bethel, but I got used to it. And it's almost like I kind of like went back into survival mode. For me, my abuser at home was a female. And so I had never really experienced that kind of treatment from a male like that, other than like my cousin that had got mad at me. So it was different for me, and it really did like scare me, like, oh God, these men are like huge. I'm like 86 pounds, 11, 5 foot, you know. So eventually we got like more girls. And then the rules kind of like started getting stricter and stricter.
So you were the, and I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. So you were the very first girl of the
Very
Bethel.
first girl to come back in 1998.
And being the first girl there, so when you first got there as a first girl, like where did you stay or what was it like? I mean, what did these,
So
there's only you, what did they do?
they had me stay in this makeshift trailer dorm that was behind the church, and it was near the boys barracks. And we had a staff member named Miss Missy that stayed with me. And then a couple weeks later, we got Amy, and then we got another girl named Sage, and then we slowly started getting like more girls, but it was never more than like 4 or 5 because they didn't have the room for it, because the dorm that they had purchased for us to stay in was not finished, and they were actually having the boys do the work, like the construction work, the demolition, like completely redoing and remodeling. Like teenage children, 10, 11, 16-year-old boys were doing this hard labor.
How, so you got there, you were the first girl and it didn't really, things didn't really form. So kind of tell me how long you were there until they started getting that. Cause I know you were, how long, you were at Bethel for like 2 years, right?
I was at Bethel for 2 years. I was there for a little like a year and about 3 months. And then I went home for
Yeah.
3 months. And then after my adopted mother passed away, I got sent back to Bethel and was there for a little over a year and a half.
Okay, so tell me, you got there, you're the first girl, you're kind of living in that trailer, you're cleaning Fountain's house. How long until they kind of established it as a girls' school, and kind of how did that all kind of fold out happen?
It was probably like a couple months after I got there. We got like another girl, and then um that girl, they were, because she was older, they were trying to like turn her into like a leader, you know, because she was like 16. And she just used me as her human punching bag pretty much. And it was like okay for her to beat the crap out of me and never get in trouble. And eventually you get sick and tired of getting the shit beat out of you, so you fight back. And so this girl was allowed to wear makeup, because you're not allowed to wear makeup at Bethel unless you were like 16. I think at 15 you could wear like light pink lipstick and clear mascara, and then when you turn 16 you could wear foundation. And so I got mad at her. She had took my pajamas and threw them on top of the trailer roof. And I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to get my pajamas down from there? So in a rage, I went to the bathroom, destroyed all of her makeup and toiletries, was flushing lipsticks down the toilet, had the door locked. And next thing I know, Bubba Fountain's like, you better unlock this door. And I unlocked that door because I was like, that fat man's going to break the door down and jerk me up. And then I was instructed to pick cotton as a form of punishment for what I did. And I was like, I'm not your fucking slave. I'm not going to pick cotton. And I was told by Herman Fountain Sr., it should come easy to your kind. And that man was racist. The work crews that they called the boys' crews, they called them the nigger crews. He called me niglet, nigger baby, mutt, Oreo. And after, you know, picking cotton for a few hours, I was just like, watching, and nobody really was watching me, and I just booked it from behind the trailer dorm and pretty much just ran through these woods until I saw a house. And then once I saw a house, I cut through there, and I knew that like if I see a house, there's going to be a straight road. And I just pretty much followed it all the way till I got to Walmart. And I remember seeing the Bethel van pull up, and I saw Amy get out and Dodie get out and Ruth Fountain get out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna hide, because I thought, oh, if I go to Walmart, I can get clothes, blend in, and maybe go to the police station, because like I would stick out like a sore thumb in our, you know, uniforms that we had. And I remember sneaking down into the little ditch, and this car pulls up beside me, and this old man's like, are you from that school? And you know, first instinct is stranger danger, you know, because I'm 11. And I was reluctant to tell him, like, yeah, but obviously you could tell with the Bethel emblem on my shirt. Like, so I was like, yeah, I'm from that school. Can you help me? I need to go to the police station. She's like, yeah, I can help you. Something in my stomach told me not to get in there, but I was desperate. And as soon as I got in this man's vehicle, he locked the doors, and I knew I had fucked up trusting him. And he took me right back to Bethel. And when I got there, I remember seeing Herman Fountain hand this man an envelope. And I was very scared of, like, okay, what now? What's going to happen to me since I ran away? Surprisingly, Herman Fountain, he was angry, but he was like this weird, creepy, calm angry, like not his normal spitting and sweating and veins popping out your face. And I was locked in Herman Fountain Sr.'s closet in his house, in his living room. He had like a coat closet in his living room behind the couch, like on the way, like here's the fireplace, here's the couch, there's the stairwell, and it was the closet that's attached to the stairwell. And he locked me in that closet, and I can't even tell you how long I was in there, a few hours maybe, and I don't remember eating dinner that night. But I did get spanked by Herman Fountain, and William Knott was there, and I don't remember Dodie or Missy even being around to watch the spankings. And I remember getting spanked with a paddle. We did get spanked with switches, but I remember that day specifically getting spanked with a paddle. And I was put in Herman Fountain Sr.'s stairwell coat closet, and I remember his children would open up the door and just like taunt me and make fun of me.
So after Herman Fountain actually locked you in a closet in his own home, and you were not his child, and spanked you, and did whatever they did. So just kind of go into what happened from there. What was life like at Bethel? What did you see? What did you experience?
In the beginning, things were very different for the girls than the boys. I noticed right away that we had privileges that the boys did not. And I specifically remember watching movies with like two of the younger other boys there. And it was like for a short time, because we had a couple other little boys there that were around my age. Alan, John, there's a few others. And we were allowed to watch Armageddon and Empire Records, but we weren't allowed to like talk or look at them, which was hard not to, and it was really weird because like we weren't allowed to look at the boys. We weren't allowed to speak at the boys. If you looked at a boy, automatically they would think that you were a whore or call you a Jezebel. I mean, at 11 years old, I remember being called a slut and a whore at 11 years old. And that affected me because at the time, I had been molested. And so that wasn't my choice. You know what I mean? And they pretty much just kind of taught us how to be good. They were trying to turn us into like good, submissive housewives. And we did things differently. Like the boys marched. We did cadence like a couple times with drill instructor Knott, but it's not something that Herman Fountain wanted us to do because he specifically wanted us to be like good, submissive, like training us to be housewives. I remember watching boys be chained up together, having to walk around. I remember watching boys be drowned in the pond. I remember watching boys have to fight. They would make the boys box in a boxing ring. And I remember other schools from other programs would come fight our boys. I mean, our boys were that good. I mean, they were the best. But watching 10, 11-year-olds have to beat the shit out of each other, but we were so brainwashed to root the boys up. I mean, that was the only time that we were allowed to kind of like engage with the boys, really. And so, of course, we were rooting the boys up. But now when I sit there and I think about that, like that really affected me. It desensitized me because when I, wound up leaving the program, I couldn't adjust and I had like some memory loss. So after my first year, at first, I mean, it was bad, but it wasn't that bad till the second time I went there. So I remember all of a sudden being told, hey, you need to go to Herman Fountain's house. And I was scared because I didn't know why I was being called to his house. Did I do something? Did I mess something up? I'm sitting there overanalyzing, overthinking, like, okay, what could I have done to possibly get in trouble? And Carol answers the door, tells me go in there. Herman goes, "You got 10 minutes. Your dad's on his way to come get you." And I was like in complete shock. He had to tell me twice. I ran from the Fountains house, past the boys' barracks, and headed straight to, the trailer to get my stuff. And on the way there, I see the car rolling up, and my dad and our neighbor get out the vehicle, and I get my stuff, put it in a trash bag. So I didn't have suitcases. So I took what I could in trash bags, and I went home. And I went home, and my sister was home. And I didn't know this at the time, but she actually got her program shut down. She had ran away. And when she ran away, DCFS in Texas picked her up. And they called the McNamara's, who was the dorm parents at the time, for Victory Acres to come pick her up. And when they did, the cops overheard Jill McNamara say, "When we get you back, we're going to beat you." So they sent CPS workers to come check her out, and she had bruises from her backside all the way down to the bottom of her thighs. And so they shut the program down. So when she came home, my dad was like, "I'm going to go get my baby." So that's how I got to go home, because my dad was like, I was only home for about 3 months, and I was trying to do good. But I struggled in school, getting a couple fights here and there, mean girl shit. My adopted mother winds up passing away 3 weeks after my 13th birthday. I come home the week after she dies. My aunt has all my stuff packed in my room. She says, "You're going back to Bethel." And I was like, "You stupid bitch. Why do you have regular clothes packed for me? You know nothing about this program. If you knew anything about Bethel, you would know we wear uniforms." And so, most kids probably would have ran away. I had nowhere to run to. So I just went with it. And that was the last time I saw my adopted father, was when I was 13. I didn't see him again. And I was sent back to Bethel. This time when I went back to Bethel, I knew that I could handle what I was about to face, that I had done it once, I could do it again. By this point, we had probably maybe 10 girls by the time I got back. So it was like more than when I had left. And then slowly we just started getting more and more, and things started to get more militant. They started having drill instructor not come, and he would come sporadically. I remember I fell asleep in school, and I woke up to him screaming in my ear to wake up. And I was forced to go out the school and get in what's called booty position, where you're getting almost down like in a squat, and you can't fall out, and you're forward. And I couldn't hold that. And so he told me I needed to do duck walks, which is a squat position, and you're doing a walk up and down the sidewalk. And I kept falling out. So then he's kicking me, screaming at me. And I was like, I can't do this. So then I was given the punishment for falling asleep in class to dig a tree stump up with a spoon. And I mean like a cereal spoon. I never got the tree stump out, but I had to sit there and dig that up. And then I started watching when new girls would come in. Bubba was just roughhousing him. I remember a girl came in, and she told him to kiss her ass, and he backed her into a corner, and he pulled his pants down bare, hairy, fat ass, and had it in her face. And he grabbed her by her head, and he was just swinging around like a flipping rag doll. And we were all in the dining room, and we're watching this, and we can't even react. We're not allowed to get up and help her. And you know it's wrong, and you can't do anything, and you're scared because if you go over there, he's gonna get you. I watched another girl get hit in the face with a 2x4 my second time. Dodie smacked a girl in the face because she called her a bitch. Another black girl came in and refused to do PT. And Bubba's sitting there telling her, "You know what we do to your kind round here?" I watched, and myself too included, I was thrown into the pond. We had a pond out in the girls' dorm. It was full of flipping water moccasins, and he'd make us carry logs and do exercises in it, dunk our fucking heads in it. dunk our heads in the fucking kitchen sink. There's a girl that was suicidal, and he told her to go run into a brick wall outside. And I remember walking past the boys' barracks, and we would hear the boys screaming, and they would do what's called sweat parties. And it's where they would turn on the heat in the showers, and they would make the boys exercise, and they would write help. You would watch the boys write help in the windows.
So tell me kind of how long you were at Bethel, and then how you ended up leaving Bethel.
Okay.
And where you went to another facility after Bethel too, right?
Yeah. So after I got kicked out of Bethel, I was taken to Victory Acres girls home, which was the same school that my sister had got shut down. It just reopened in a new state, North Carolina. And then after that program got shut down after 3 months of me being there, due to 2 girls running away and CPS doing an investigation, I was then sent to Charity Haven for holding, and then sent to their Becker Home for Girls that rebranded as New Beginnings Girls Academy. And I was there a year, and then I was sent to Jack Patterson's Reclamation Ranch. I was placed up for adoption at birth and given to the Children's Home Society, Buckner Division. And then from there, I was adopted and abused, sent away at age 11 to Charity Haven, was there 3 months, and was transferred to Bethel Boys and Girls Academy, where I stayed there for a year and 4 months. Then I went back home for 3 months after my adoptive mother passed away. A week later, after she died, I came home to all my bags packed, and I was sent right back to Bethel. I remained there for a year and a half. And then I was sent to Victory Acres Girls Home. And then I was sent back to Charity Haven Girls Home after being at Victory Acres for 3 months. It got shut down by CPS. And I was at Charity Haven and holding, the only girl there after it got shut down, the only girl there. I was there for a month for them to hold me while I was going to get transported to the Rebecca Home for Girls. And the Rebecca Home for Girls got closed and rebranded as New Beginnings Girls Academy, relocated to Pace, Florida. And then I was there for a little over a year. And then I was sent to Jack Patterson's Reclamation Ranch in Marion, Tennessee. He relocated that to Empire, Alabama, and the girls' home was named Rachel Academy. And I was there from age 15 to age 17 and 9 months. So
you were institutionalized basically as a child from age 11 to 18. What did you get from all that?
Absolutely nothing. I did not get any social skills. I lacked a lot of social skills coming out, still do, still working on that, which made it hard for me to navigate parenting. How am I supposed to teach my own children social skills that I don't even have? What happened to me didn't just affect me, but it affected the next generation of my family. There's times where I watch my children at certain ages when I was, and I get so re-triggered by things. And I have to fight the urge to not react the way that people reacted to me and think back, what did I need when I was that age, and try to fix it. It made it really hard for me to trust other people. I was very easily trusting to some people, and then they would just burn me over and over and over and over again to the point where I just couldn't trust anybody. So I didn't know what real love was, and I didn't know when someone was actually trying to help me because they truly cared, or if it was because they had another agenda or was doing it for a different purpose. I didn't know the difference. I didn't know how to apply for college, how to get a loan. I didn't know how taxes work. I didn't know how to apply for a job. I didn't even have any kind of interviewing skills. They did no preparation. I didn't know how to get my driver's license, didn't know how to drive, how to get my first apartment. I was pretty much homeless, but I was resourceful. um, and I pretty much had to learn everything from scratch from people in my life and hope that they were giving me the correct information or that they had my best interests at heart. And if it wasn't for the people in my adult life that actually listened and heard my story and felt some sort of empathy, and showed compassion, I probably would not be where I'm at today, because those programs did not set me up for the things that I needed. I didn't even have basic math schools. I left with like a 5th grade math education. So when I did go to college, I had to take developmental courses to catch up. And I was failing those. I had to take a couple twice because I was that far behind. All my classes, pretty much were non-accredited education, I still suffer from PTSD and nightmares. As time has gone on, they've gotten somewhat better. And I've gone to therapy for about 3 years. But you still get re-triggered sometimes, and the nightmares, they still haunt you.
So go into kind of like now as an adult, what are you doing?
My favorite part.
Yeah, now as an adult, what do you realize? What are you doing like about all this stuff? Because here we are, you're doing a lot of things, you're raising awareness. So go into all that stuff, just kind of like just
the biggest things I feel like the program took for me, really what sucked, was my ability to trust others. And it also hindered my faith in my walk with the Lord, which, we've talked about this. I recently rededicated my life to God after my grandmother passed. And my biological grandmother came into my life right when I needed her. And she showed me that not all Christians are the ones like what the Fountains and the people in the program were like, and that they were what the Bible talks about, people who say that they're Christians, but they're not doing the things that God tells them. They're the ones that are going to be I spew you out of my mouth. There's a verse in the Bible that says if you harm children, God's going to get you. So now I have this peace, because I'm like, if they truly are Christians and they truly believe the word of God, then they should know that verse. And they was hurting kids, and God's going to get them. So I'm just going to let back and God get them. And I'm just going to try to focus on what's happening now, because ain't nothing changed since 2005 when I left my programs. There are still children dying. Over 500 children have died in the programs. We have lost over 100 children so far in the past couple of years. I think since 2022 alone. A 12-year-old just died at Trails, Carolina, and it was ruled a homicide. They suffocated him. He was there one day and passed away. In 2020, I was reaching out, to fellow survivors. I started looking for survivors back in 2013. I joined Facebook in 2011, and I wound up coming across like Alan Knoll, and he was talking about writing this book. And I always knew when I was like around 12 years old, I was going to write a book, because like this shit was fucked up. Just the adoption part was just messed up, And then I was like, man, he's coming out with this story. Okay, I can do this. So I started working on a little bit of it. But during that period of time, I was also looking for my biological family. So that was my main focus. I took a DNA test, found both sides of my family. One side lives in Kentucky. My dad lives here in Ohio, 3 hours away. My grandma and sister, they all live down there in Florida, right around the Jacksonville area. So after I met my biological family and it came into my life, really at the perfect time, because the irony of that is I remember when I met my biological family on my mother's side, they were like, "Do you know the Lord?" And I was like, "Oh shit, here we go." And I was like, "Nah, I already know about all that Christian stuff." And I was very resistant to it because, what they did to me in the program is they used religion to control and to twist the word of God to kind of defend how they were treating us and what they were doing to us, and that it was supposed to build us up in some way, and this is what we needed to become good Christians and soldiers for the Lord. And then I realized it was a bunch of bull crap, and so I kind of was like, oh no. So I was like searching other different religions because I know that it's important to have a faith, and I needed something, especially with everything going on in my life. But I just didn't trust God no more, so I started dabbling in reading about different other religions and stuff. And then I met my grandma, and we sat up. I mean, the first time I met her in person, we sat up for like 3 hours talking, and we were talking about God. And she was just always so loving and kind. I was like, man, how could she just be so kind? She's probably never gone through anything. And then as I got talking with my grandma, I found, her life ain't peaches and cream. And I was like, man, if this woman can endure all that and still give grace, I want to be more like that. And there's a saying about there's nothing that compares to a grandmother's love. And she came right to my life when I needed. And I wound up rededicating my life to the Lord. And I was sitting there thinking, like, man, what is the purpose of me going through all this crap, God? Like, why would you have me go through all this? And I was sitting there thinking, like, these people in these churches are getting so fooled, just like these parents, and they're supporting and donating their money to these programs thinking that they're helping kids when it's a facade. Maybe I'm supposed to go to these churches. So I'm actually started going back to church, and I'm going to be visiting churches and telling them about what happened in these programs and giving them the signs of what to look out for if a program like that comes to your church and is like, hey, yeah, give us the money, we're helping kids. And I want to actually kind of teach them how to investigate and look and see if this program is a good place, and then look for the signs, and then what to do if you find out, hey, this isn't a good place, what to do. So I'm kind of working on that. I'm also working on my book right now. I'm completely redoing it. It's in the process of editing, and we're trying to get ready for traditional publishing. It should be done.
What's the name of your book?
It is called Dear Renisha. So I titled it that because that was my biological name before I was adopted. My mother named me after my sister that died when she was 7 years old. And so I write it in journal form to my biological sister in heaven, as if I'm writing to her about everything that happened in my life. So I am working with We Warn Them campaign. It is a grassroots organization that not only educates people about the troubled teen industry, but also social awareness, impact changes that need to happen, foster care, adoptees, and human rights. Basically is a human rights organization. And so I have been learning how to be a better advocate. And I actually just got back from Capitol Hill. I went to Washington, D.C. a couple weeks ago. I went to the Senate Finance Committee hearing, and I got to learn more about the process and what goes on. And it's a lot to take this industry down right now. I mean, there's so many different programs, and how are you going to shut places down if you don't even know where they're at, if they exist? And there's so many different things that we have to do. And I know for a lot of survivors, you don't feel like it's happening fast enough, but there's so many different people out there that's trying to get stuff done from all avenues. And I have faith that, we're leading the way for the next generation of survivors coming out of this, of where to go for help when you get out. And you know what I mean? And we're giving them those resources that we didn't have, when we got off the program. A lot of kids didn't have moms and dads to go home to. They were homeless like me, and had to kind of like make their own way or rely on other people. And so in the future, I would like to maybe help foster kids or displaced youth who are coming out of foster care, coming out of these programs, and help teach them the skills that I didn't have. I'm also going in Texas to a protest with We Warned Them for UHS services in Vigil in
You're
August.
you're also very, just like, all right. So you're also very vocal about what you went through online. So like your TikTok, as I'm talking about all that, because I
Yes.
see a lot of posts. It really